Roki Sasaki is the new bachelor, Steve Phillips. He has the rose, he holds the cards. We're hearing Dodgers, Padres, and Blue Jays at this hour. Which of the three need him most? Good morning.
Well, good morning. Yeah, I think the Blue Jays need him the most. I mean, it's been a really tough run for the last couple of years. They need something to go in their favor. I mean, they went to the $700 million on Ohtani last year. He chose to go to L.A. They were in on Juan Soto at close to $700 million. He ends up going to the Mets. They're in on Corbin Burns and had the most money on the table, and he chose to go to Arizona. And so they're in on everybody and can't get anybody to say yes. This would be a coup. This would be a surprise, right? We all thought Dodgers, Padres, West Coast, Mariners maybe, Mets, Yankees, for the Blue Jays to get in. And look, I think it's a statement for the Blue Jays. Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, they're making an impression on the other players. The fact that Ohtani considered Toronto, the fact that Sasaki's brought them into the final, but they really need to get this done to try to save this offseason, which has been a huge disappointment so far.
One most likely, three least likely that he'll go. What would you rank him right now?
Yeah, I think San Diego for me would be the main one. I think you got Darvish there. It's not Los Angeles, a little less market presence where, Joe Wolf indicated he had some run-ins with the media a little bit, some tough times in Japan. San Diego's sort of the softer, gentler landing spot. Yeah, and so A.J. Preller speaking Japanese, I think is a fit there too. So I would probably go San Diego, then Toronto as a sleeper, and then the Dodgers. I think that being the third Japanese pitcher with the Dodgers, where he's going to have to make some of that money off the field in sponsorship deals and marketing, I think he has less impact with two other Japanese pitcher, Ohtani leading the way, than he would in San Diego or in Toronto, where he could dominate the country with his brand.
That's a fascinating order. I did not think it would be yours. It's so interesting, Steve. We're talking about teams needing players. What's the Mets' plan if they don't get, what's the real plan at first if they don't get Pete Alonso? And as time goes by, who does it benefit more?
Right. Like, this is the thing. We keep saying, oh, Alonso really wants to be a Met. He's recognized the market's not there for him. But the Mets need to be careful, because if Alonso ends up deciding, or somebody jumps in and says, we're going to give you the 5-year deal or 6-year deal, and the Mets don't go there, what do? So it may be that the move would be Mark Vientos going from third to first and Brett Beatty playing third base. But Brett Beatty had really struggled offensively. And, typically a team doesn't pivot to where plan B costs more than plan A. And Alex Bregman would cost them more money than Alonso would. If they choose not to sign Alonso, I don't see them going to Bregman. And so I think the Mets, I get what they're doing. And they're doing the right thing. I would do the same thing. I would wait it out. But if he goes away on them, they may get left holding the bag with nothing in it, and they've got to be careful with that.
Hoping for a resolution soon. We carried the Justin Verlander press conference on our air. He said so many things. He's great. That stood out. He said, I'm so much further along, Steve, this offseason than I was last offseason. And I just found it so interesting at 42. He's still trying to find ways to evolve. He says, I'm working out differently. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I found it really interesting, too. So his entire career, he was that guy that could shut it down for 2 months, pick up a ball, and be Justin Verlander again. Right, he'd be that. But last year, it caught up on him. And so, being a little bit older, Matty referenced himself as being an old guy. Well, I don't know what that makes me, but I get it. Like, if you take a lot of time off, ramping it up again, things hurt. They don't always keep it going. And so I think keeping the joints oiled, so to speak, continuing to throw during the winter seems to make a lot of sense. And as players age, they have to do more to get the same result. And I think Verlander learned that last year. I have big expectations for him in 2025.
If you took 5 months off radio and TV, you'd pick up right where you left off. JV has a home, Snell has a home, Corbin Burns. What about Jack Flaherty on full display this October?
Yeah, so, Flaherty, you thought rebuilt his market with his performance in 2024. He had a great season with Detroit, then going over to the Dodgers. You can make a case in many regards. He was a savior for the Dodgers down the stretch and winning that division because of what he meant coming over. He was their most consistent, reliable pitcher. And it's interesting because at the trade deadline, remember, the Yankees rejected a trade because their doctors backed away on the medicals. And so Flaherty came out looking for a 5-year deal. It's not there for him, because I think the concern is the medicals. He has something was going on with his back, and I think nobody wants to lock in long term, which means it's a shorter term deal. I personally think going back to Detroit, where he thrived last year, would be a good fit for him and for the Tigers. Go at it another year. He had great success there. He can lead that staff. I would look for them to potentially reconnect with one another, even if it's one of those 2-year, 3-year deals with opt-outs. It may be the right thing for him and for the Tigers.
Guy's a stud. Inside of a month until pitchers and catchers. I can hardly wait. Steve Phillips, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Maddie, Harold.
Thanks, Lauren.
What do you got?
All right, Steve, Lauren, thank you. Well, we got this. We got the very latest on the Pete Alonso free agency case. Some fresh information to reveal and kick around next on Hot Stove. Open on Roki Sasaki as of today. These were all involved in the list of suitors, teams that Roki could have signed with. And as we showed you yesterday, Roki decided that that group wasn't going to cut it. Yes, sayonara to you, Rangers, Cubs, Mets, Yankees, and Giants. And it appears that the 3 remaining suitors we have assembled here on the Hot Stove desk, and in no particular order, these are the teams that are standing. We're going to get some resolution on this soon because, again, the window opens today. Anytime from today through the next week, we could learn where this prized young prospect, this phenom, will land here stateside. So I'll ask you, Harold.
Yes.
If you want to start with the Blue Jays or the Dodgers?
Oh, am I making a pitch?
You're making a pitch. Let's start with the Dodgers. You're Brandon Gomes.
All right.
Right? You're the Dodgers. You're Stan Kasten. You're all those guys. How are you selling Roki on coming to Los Angeles?
Well, one of the unique things the Dodgers are doing is their guys are living in Los Angeles. Shohei's in L.A. Mookie's in L.A. Freddie Freeman's in L.A. They're not going somewhere. I live in Arizona because of the weather. No, they're all making home in Los Angeles. So let's just go to the video because I got sneak video of the player meeting. All right.
What?
I was there. I flew out to LA and there he was.
He sat in on the
sat in with the meeting.
Not photoshopped at all.
Those are the 3 henchmen that are driving this thing. All right. Now Yamamoto probably decided to come to the meeting as well. But that's what the Dodgers did. They brought in the players. And this is not being facetious.
Yeah.
They brought the players in. So what did they say? They said, look, we just won a World Series. We have the top 2 Japanese players in the world on this team. You know them. You played with them at the WBC. Now, look, are you going to get run support? See this guy here? I know I pitch. I'm Shohei. But I got Mookie and Freddie Freeman, the MVP. And Mookie's a guy that's going to play all over. And we continue to add. We have prospects. We have money. You're going to have young guys on your team, and you'll have veterans like myself. This is the place you got to be. And it's Hollywood.
It's a pretty good pitch.
That's a good pitch.
It's a powerful pitch, especially with those 3 dudes doing the pitching.
Come on.
Here's what I think's going to happen.
All right.
I think he's going to sign right here. I said this yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
And I'm doubling down on it today.
All right.
And it starts, my pitch as the swinging friar starts this way. I'm A.J. Preller. Konnichiwa, sucker. I speak Japanese. Let's you and me go have some blowfish, and not the kind that's going to kill you. I'll treat you to some fancy, expensive-ass sushi. Let's go. You're signing right here. You seen La Jolla? Have you seen La Jolla Cove? You want to live in the lap of luxury? We will kiss your tuchus up and down PCH, my man. And you got Yu Darvish right here, who you have said is your baseball godfather. Here he is, the godfather right here. And we're not talking about Brando with cotton balls in his tongue. Here we go. He's going to sign with the Pods. He's going to shock the world. All right?
That's good.
What about the Toronto? What about the Toronto Blue Jays? You want to be the Jays?
I'm the Jays.
Okay.
All right. Look, Toronto's an amazing, not just city, but country. You're going to have a whole country that is going to follow you and support you. You know that tower? They call the CN Tower? No, that is the Sasaki Tower.
Oh.
That will be your tower. Now, we've been trying to sign for 2 years now the big fish in the pond. We offered Shohei $700. He came out here. He went to our facility in spring training and said this is the most amazing thing he's ever seen. Now, I get it. He played in the league 7 years, so he felt like L.A. He didn't want to move too far from Anaheim. You're coming over here. We're going to take you. You will be the franchise player, and we have young talent around you. You're 23? Hey, Vlad's 26. Bichette's 26. We got youngsters that you can identify with. They will take care of you. They will show you around. And our community, nobody has a more diverse community in the world than Toronto.
Great job.
Yes.
I love Canada.
That's excellent. Yay! Very well played. Toronto made a very strong play there.
That was good.
That's very good. Lauren,
San Diego.
you're the judge.
I got so much to say. Number one, you're nuts. Number one. You're the only person who can say stuff like that.
I'm watching Lauren and Keith through the glass.
Oh, my gosh. We said A.J. Preller lost it.
Konnichiwa, sucker.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm going to Toronto. Want to know why?
Why?
The facilities, number one, and Tim Hortons, number two. But I just Googled it, and San Diego has Tim Hortons, too. So,
They do?
yeah.
There's a Tim Hortons in San
Don't
Diego?
squint, you're going to get wrinkles, yeah.
Well, I'm
Just confirm. Keith,
genuinely
can you confirm
surprised
it?
by that.
Yes, I Googled it, so it must be true. It's on the internet, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Everybody's on the internet.
Everybody's on the internet these days. Keith, did you find out? Yes or
I'm
no?
looking. I don't think you're right, but I'm looking.
I don't think you're right either, Lauren.
No, good.
All right, the Hall of Fame spotlight has narrowed its focus onto the one guy that we all agree is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But Keith Costas, the burning question, will Ichiro be just the second player ever as a unanimous first ballot guy?
Yeah, Maddie, I agree with you. That is the only question here. I tend to think that he will become the second, but you never know with 400-plus voters who might have some ridiculous issue they want to take up on their ballot. But we'll do the exercise we've been doing with all these guys and go through the whole career, starting back in Japan with Ichiro. Now, he played 9 seasons in NPB. The first 2 were partial seasons, 7 full seasons. Batting title every single year, guys. 385 in his first season, 387 on the way out. A 3-time MVP in his first 3 full seasons out of the gate. The only position player to win 3 consecutive MVPs in the history of Nippon professional baseball. Now, you think about when he came over to the Mariners those first 10 years, the best comp for me, guys, we go cross-sport Morosi style here, is maybe LeBron James, in terms of a guy who was so hyped, and almost immediately it was apparent he was not overhyped. And within weeks, the question had become, can we possibly have underhyped this guy? Because he came over and hit the ground running and exceeded all expectations, even based on what he had done in Japan. We know 2001, the MVP and the Rookie of the Year, only the second player to win those in both seasons. And oh, by the way, you see on the bottom, 116 wins for the Mariners. All-Star Gold Glove every single year, 2 batting titles, 361 combined in those batting title seasons, and the highest WAR among all outfielders. Only Pujols and A-Rod above him overall in that span. Now, you think about the first 10 years out of the gate, we know he started in the middle of his 20s, was already a professional overseas, but nobody in the history of the game has put up as many hits over their first 10 seasons as Ichiro, and it's not particularly close. Basically a full season's worth of hits ahead of the rest of that list, guys. You put it all together, Japan and the major leagues, where does he stack up? Well, Pete Rose has the most games played and the most hits all time. You put the NPB and MLB numbers together, and Ichiro ahead of Rose in both of those categories. 4,367 hits, guys, over the course of his Japan and American careers. Now, you think about 3,000 of those hits coming in America, and 10 Gold Gloves. Only 3 other players in the history of the game, some of the best outfielders that we've ever seen, have been able to get to those totals. Mays, Kaline, Clemente, and now Ichiro. And why was that possible, guys? Well, of course, he played forever and loved the game. You look at this list, since World War II, oldest position players, played till he was 45 years old, guys, Ichiro, to compile all these numbers. So you don't have to dig too deep statistically to get to this guy being a Hall of Famer. Obviously, there was more to him than just the numbers. One of the most entertaining and distinctive players that we've seen in generations. Guys, what are the lasting images of Ichiro, and where do you come down on whether or not he'll be a unanimous selection?
Yeah, man. Great information, Keith, as always. The first thing I always think of is when he got here, and that first spring training in Peoria, Arizona, and Lou Piniella just couldn't believe how bad he thought he was.
What job has he had in baseball?
Yeah.
Besides talking on television.
Well, I'm just saying, Lou, you were very hard on Ichiro.
I'm tired of some of these guys. I really am.
I know. Sorry, but you were hard on him at first, and then he immediately paid dividends. I'll also say this, Keith. I think that the Japanese league statistics. Anecdotally, yeah, you could consider that, but this is the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I don't think your numbers in another league should count toward, and I get the exercise that Keith did to combine the hit total with, to just put it into context with Pete Rose. No. I don't think voters look at that as something that's relevant.
Well, you can take it as far as even Rookie of the Year. This is 7-8 years of professional baseball.
Yeah. I think he's going to be unanimous. But here's a question for both of you. Keith, I want your take on this, too. Over his last 1,000 at-bats, he hit 250, right? He wasn't good in his last 5 years. He wasn't. He was still Ichiro. We still knew the back of the baseball card. But do you think those last 5 years at all would affect a voter and prevent one voter from putting him on as a first ballot guy? Because maybe that recency bias could be something that if he's one vote shy of unanimous election, maybe that recency bias counts towards something. Do you think that's at all relevant?
If there was no track record, and I agree with what you're saying in general about not counting the Japanese stats is a huge factor, but if there had been no previous track record, maybe I could buy that a little more. But the first 10 years were so stellar in the major leagues, I can't really see how someone could justify dragging it down based on what happened.
I'll throw a question at both of you guys. I'm looking at, we're in power times that we're in, right? He had a high of 15 home runs one season. 13, he's usually 8, 6, 5, something like that. Does he get on the field today with a lot of front offices?
I think so.
To get this stellar career. I'm telling you, we're looking at Luis Arraez scuffling to find teams.
皆さん、ここまでお付き合いいただき、本当にありがとうございます。今回の動画では、MLB や野球界で、今まさに注目を集める話題について深掘りしてきました。ロキ・佐々木選手の移籍先、ピート・アロンゾ選手の契約問題、ジャスティン・バーランダー選手の進化、そして、イチロー選手の殿堂入りの可能性、どれもファンの皆さんにとって興味深く、心躍るトピックだったのではないでしょうか。ロキ・佐々木選手と次世代の希望。まず、ロキ・佐々木選手の移籍に関する話題は、まさに次世代スターの誕生を予感させるものです。彼がどのチームを選ぶのか、そして新天地でどのような伝説を築くのか、今から期待が高まりますね。佐々木選手をめぐるドジャース、パドレス、ブルージェイズという三つどもえの競争、それぞれのチームが持つ強みを生かして、彼を迎え入れようとする点は、野球の魅力をより一層引き立てています。例えば、トロント・ブルージェイズは、国全体が応援するというユニークな環境を持ち、選手としてだけでなく文化的アイコンとしてのポテンシャルも示しています。一方で、パドレスは佐々木選手が尊敬するダルビッシュ有選手の存在を前面に押し出し、彼にとっての優しい着陸地としての魅力をアピールしています。そして、ジャースはすでに MLB クラスの選手たちと共にプレーできるという点で、他のチームにはない華やかさを持っています。どのチームが彼を迎え入れるかはまだ分かりませんが、どの選択肢もファンにとって夢のある依頼を感じさせてくれるものです。まさにこのような瞬間が野球というスポーツの真髄なのではないでしょうか。ピート・アロンゾ選手とメッツの未来、続いてピート・アロンゾ選手の契約問題についても目が離せませんね。ニューヨークメッツが彼を引き止めるべきか、それとも他のプラン B に切り替えるべきか、このような議論はチーム運営の難しさを感じさせると同時に、選手たちの未来がどのように変わるのかという期待感を高めます。メッツは現在 アロンゾ選手を中心に据えた計画を立てつつも、慎重に動いているようです。しかし、もしアロンゾ選手が他球団と契約を結ぶことになれば、メッツが抱える課題はさらに複雑化するでしょう。このような交渉は、単に契約金額や条件だけでなく、選手たちとの信頼関係、チームの将来ビジョン、そしてファンの期待感までも含む非常に繊細なプロセスです。バーランダー選手と進化の象徴、さらにジャスティン・バーランダー選手の話題も非常に興味深いものでした。彼は42歳という年齢にもかかわらず、自身のトレーニング方法を進化させ続けています。このような姿勢は、彼がただのベテラン選手ではなく、未だに成長し続ける象徴的な存在であることを示しています。バーランダー選手が語った関節を常に動かし続けることの重要性や、オフシーズンでも体を鍛え続ける努力は、私たちに大切な教訓を与えてくれます。年齢や経験に関係なく、常に新しい挑戦を続けることの価値を、彼はそのパフォーマンスを通じて体現しているのです。イチロー選手と殿堂入りへの期待。最後に、イチロー選手の話題に触れないわけにはいきませんね。彼が成し遂げた数々の偉業は、野球ファンだけでなくスポーツ界全体にとっても誇りです。日本とアメリカをつなぐ架け橋として、彼が示してきた情熱と努力は、これからも語り継がれていくでしょう。特に注目すべきは、彼の殿堂入りの可能性についてです。イチロー選手が持つ NPB と MLB 両方での輝かしい記録は、彼が単なる一流選手以上の存在であることを証明しています。彼が残した軌跡は、今後の世代の選手たちにとっても大きな目標であり続けるでしょう。ファンへの呼びかけ、皆さん、今回の動画を通じて、野球の魅力や選手たちの素晴らしさを少しでも感じていただけましたでしょうか。今回取り上げた話題についてのご意見や感想をぜひコメント欄で教えてください。どの話題が一番心に残りましたか。また、今後取り上げてほしいテーマや気になる選手についてもぜひリクエストをお寄せください。さらに、このチャンネルをまだ登録していない方は、ぜひ登録ボタンをクリックして、私たちの野球コミュニティを一緒に盛り上げていきましょう。皆さんのサポートが私たちにとってのエネルギーになります。そして次回もさらにエキサイティングで心躍るような内容をお届けする予定ですので、どうぞお楽しみに。最後までご視聴いただき本当にありがとうございました。これからも一緒に野球の世界を楽しみ、選手たちの情熱や努力を応援していきましょう。それでは次回の動画でまたお会いしましょう。